This is the 2016 Raleigh Sprint IE. It's their second speed pedelec, meaning it can go up to 28 miles per hour top speed. Pedal assist only is how it comes out of the box, but you can pay $50 and get this little boost ring if you want that goes up to 20 miles per hour. You gotta hold down that little button. I'll get to that a little bit more later. This bike comes in 3 sizes, 15, 17, and 19. I'm on the 17-inch frame right here. This one weighs about 51.5 pounds, so not super heavy, and you'll notice just how clean it looks. There's not like a big battery sitting there on that down tube, which is the case with the Raleigh Detour IE and some of their other bikes that use the Shimano step system. This is the only one that's just like completely integrated. Even the motor, it's circular. This is a TranzX M25 GTS, so this is a new motor for 2016. Pretty nice. It's smooth, relatively quiet. It doesn't offer shift sensing, so it's not quite as fancy as Bosch or Impulse, but it does have cadence and torque sensing, and you do notice that. So if I'm pedaling gently, I still get motor assist, which is great. You know, you don't have to wear yourself out if you don't want to, but as soon as you really put some more effort into it or you switch up into a higher gear, you feel it kicks out a little bit more. Fairly responsive. There's a little bit of drag. There a couple times I stopped pedaling and it felt like it hiccuped a little bit. It's like, you know, kind of for whatever reason revved a bit. But I believe this is a CAN bus system, meaning that they can plug it in and go over some diagnostics on little button pad, display panel, battery pack, which is right there, and the motor. So that's cool. 70 Newton meters of torque, 500 to 550 peak watt output. So good stuff. Good stuff on the motor. I do like it. It's I think a little bit lighter than some of the other, like the M07. I think that was 9.5 pounds. This is 8.5 pounds, so that accounts for some of the weight differences. Battery pack here, I believe that's 5.6 pounds. And I do have all the specs back at the site. I measured standover height and some other, got a screenshot of the geometry if you're interested in that. Battery pack uses lithium-ion cells and offers 48 volts of power, 8.7 amp hours for a pretty good capacity. And again, it's just really compact. I love that they paint matched it. So the frame is aluminum and this is just plastic. One of the concerns that I had when I was looking at this is, well, you know, if you drop this, like how tough is it? I love that it can be charged on or off the frame, but if you do take it off the frame to charge it, you just have to be a little careful. So I'm gonna, by the way, these keys do not have to be left in. It's just a demo bike and I don't want to lose them. So if I twist this, you see how it just like pops out? It seems to hold pretty well right there. It's not like completely flying out, but this is also a brand new bike, okay? So over time, if that gets loose, I just hate to see it go whoop and like land right on the pavement and chip up that plastic paint job. So pull it out a little bit so you can see the inside there, just aluminum. Nice looking thing. There's the battery. It's got a fuse, so that should help it from having like thermal runaway if it ever gets damaged. Oh, and again, it just looks nice. Does lower the weight a little bit, keeps it even lower than if it was mounted externally, and it just makes this a little bit more stealthy. So depending on where you ride, people might not feel as sensitive about it being an electric bike. It's quiet. Yeah, again, just the weight distribution centered, good balance. And of course, that motor being a mid-drive means that both wheels are quick release, and the wheels are pretty cool. Let's see here. Tire measurement is 700 by 45C. It's a little bit more of a city rating, like 700C versus being a 29er or 27.5. And you can see that hybrid tires, but they're pretty wide, so they're a little bit more spongy. 13 gauge spokes, that's a little bit larger than normal. Brass nipples, and 15 millimeter through axle in the front. And I believe it's 142 by 12 millimeter in the rear. So just even more stiffness. That helps to line up these disc brake rotors with the calipers when you're taking the wheels off, putting them on. So you can imagine having to transport this bike. You could take both wheels off in a jiffy, quick release, take that battery pack out, and you'd just be left with this super lightweight small frame. Turn that handlebar sideways and you could, you know, stick it in your trunk or whatever. It's pretty sweet. I love that it's got a suspension fork. I think this is 63 millimeters of travel. Not a ton, but you know, it's narrow. This is more of a city suspension fork. It's not, you know, geared for being off-road. It does have lockout, so you can reduce bobbing increase efficiency and range. And it's got some threaded eyelets at the back, so as well as right there at the top of the fork for adding a fender if you wanted. So this is really set up to be, it could potentially be a great commuter platform. Fender in the front, fender in the back, lots of bosses here for adding a rear carry rack if you want. 31.6 millimeter seat tube. You could add a beam rack, but of course those just aren't as stable, and they kind of get kicked side to side if you're adjusting the seat and stuff. So I love that you can just straight up add a rack. I wish that they would have had bottle cage bosses, because look at all the space in here. I comment on this a lot. If you're going to use this to commute, you want to have some water, and especially in the city, you might not be wearing like a Camelback, or a hydration pack of any sort, and it just feels like they had room. So why didn't they put the bottle cage bosses, maybe even right here, although that you could screw right into the battery. But bikes like the Specialized Turbo, they do it. Maybe even up here you could have a hanging bottle cage, and there's just none. Aftermarket, you can get like clamp-on ones, but same thing with the beam rack. They kind of get bumped side to side. So I feel like that's a big missed opportunity, and it probably wouldn't have cost that much. I do love that this has aluminum alloy chain guides, keep the chain on track. Pretty high quality Shimano SLX 10-speed cassette in the back, SLX derailleur, trigger shifters on the right, decent pedals, aluminum alloy platform. They're track style, so they're not as wide. Don't give you quite the same like traction that you might get elsewhere. It's a pretty good overview. Frame only comes in this red, black, and silver layout, but it looks pretty good. And it's a bit more aggressive with a firm saddle velo and more of a flat handlebar, but you've got 5 risers here, flat grips, but they do have a single locker on either side. And just coming back up to those levers, 2-finger Shimano. I think these are M396 with those big rotors. So it's a very capable bike. It's not the most affordable bike out there, but it's also not the most expensive for a speed pedelec. With all those quality components and stuff, it's $29.99, so about $3,000. You get a 2-year comprehensive warranty with this Raleigh bike, and we were talking about the different sizes, and unfortunately it's only high step, but it's a little bit more angled. If you were interested in a different kind of color scheme, Raleigh's owned by the Excel Group, which also owns iZip, and they've got a bike that's kind of similar. I might just cut to that, and I wanted to show you what the display looks like in the dark. Okay, so I'm back inside in sort of a dark conference room, and you can see that the display is now backlit, and that's neat. It's just detecting that based on the little sensor there. You can activate and deactivate lights manually by holding the plus button for a few seconds over on the keypad. But one thing that you can't do is completely shut it off, so it's always going to be kind of shining up in your face. This is the Pro Tour from iZip, and you can see that it has the lights already integrated. So this one, has the little wire and stuff. This one is taking advantage of that just straight out of the gate. Same thing, backlit display. So that's kind of neat. Okay, so now you've seen the display in the dark. Let's talk about how it works. So to get this bike going, it's a 2-step process. You have to press the power button on the battery pack before anything can happen. I've already done that. It does self-time out after like 15 minutes, so that's nice, but it's just one extra step. Reach down there, touch it, and then this button pad up here, press power again, hold it for a couple seconds. Well, it looks like it powered off on me. Maybe I've been talking for 15 minutes, so there we go. Hold the little button for a second, comes up, press power again, so that's the 2 steps I'm talking about. And it defaults to speed, so we can see miles per hour. If you want to change to kilometers per hour, you can hold this box icon and it'll switch. Down here we've got battery capacity, and we've got 5 out of 5 bars, so it's basically full right now. Pedal assist level, we're in 4, because I was like hauling butt over here, like testing the speed. And there's the light sensor that we were showing before to get the backlighting. It's a monochrome display, pretty easy to see, relatively large. It does swivel if you don't over tighten it. This one's a little bit tight, but that's nice to just reduce glare. And then you can arrow between those 4 levels of assist. So I can arrow down to 3, 2, or 1. You can't just arrow down to 0 for some reason. If you want to use 0 level and have the motor completely shut off. Maybe you're trying to conserve range, but you still want to use a cycle computer. Or maybe you've wired in lights, because they do have a 6-volt wire here exposed, and I think down here as well. So you could add lights that would run off that main battery. If you were in that situation, you might just want to ride this like a bicycle. You could hold this power button for a couple seconds in level 1, and then it takes you to 0. Okay, so it's just a little hidden, not quite as intuitive. I don't understand why that was necessary. And sometimes it's confusing too, because I'm like, hey, I wanted to turn the bike off. Why isn't it off? Oh, it took me to 0. You might not notice that changed. You might just be wondering, like, is this button broken? A couple of these felt a little sticky sometimes, like I had to push extra hard, and I wonder if that's because people were confused and they were really, trying to turn it off. The best way to turn it off is just to, press the power button down here again for couple seconds and then let the whole thing go off. Okay, so other menus can be accessed by pressing that box button just quickly. So we go from speed to odometer to trip distance and range. Range is pretty cool. In level 1, it's saying, hey, we can get 40, almost 45 miles. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty good range. Mid-drives are known for getting great range because they leverage the cassette. If you shift appropriately, you're able to harness the more natural and efficient RPM, rotation per minute, of the motor, instead of it being a hub motor where it's just always spinning at like a wide range of speeds. So that's cool. We have 45 miles. And then if we arrow up to assist level 4, well, now it says only 13 miles. And, so I guess I would say conservatively 15 to 40 miles might be my estimate. Of course, it depends on your weight and the wind and the hills and all these different factors. But being a speed pedelec, when you get beyond 20 miles per hour, just the wind resistance, even if it's not windy outside, just the air resistance is going to decrease your efficiency. So do keep that in mind. But you do have to pedal to make this thing go unless you add that boost button. So you are actively contributing, and that tends to increase your range. So there we go. I'm gonna bring it back over to speed, and let's just hop on and do a little test ride. Okay, so I'm gonna start pedaling and show you how responsive it is. Not bad, and it's definitely one of the quieter mid-drives I've tested. Anything that has a more full-size chainring up front like this tends to be quieter because it's running at a lower RPM, right? I'm gonna shift down now, and you'll probably hear it more at the higher RPM. Still pretty quiet, in my opinion. It's a good system. Definitely excited about the new M25 motor. I just feel that this is one of the better looking e-bikes from Raleigh all around. It's comfortable because of that suspension fork. You get those higher top speeds, you get the throttle, kind of everything you want with this bike. So for the full written review, some more details, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. And of course, especially at high speed, ride safe.